This video is presented by Western and Southern Financial Group, a game plan for your financial future. Every great team starts with a strong foundation, and your future should too. With life insurance built like a championship roster, Western and Southern helps protect what matters most, so you can focus on winning today while planning for tomorrow. Whether you're just starting your journey, building your dynasty, or ready to retire like a champion, Western and Southern has the right play for your life stage. Visit westernsouthern.com to get your free life insurance quote today. Western and Southern, built to win. The final quarterfinal game, and actually the only rematch that we have in the college football playoff quarterfinals between number 3 Georgia and number 6 Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl, New Year's Day, or New Year's night, really, I should say, 8 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. The winner of this game will take on either Ohio State or Miami in the semifinals at the Fiesta Bowl. The Rebels won their first playoff game in program history by dismantling Tulane in the first round by a 41-10 final score. The Bulldogs skipped the first round. They finished with a 12-1 record in the year. They won the SEC championship. Once again, the only rematch that we have in the quarterfinals. Georgia beat Ole Miss at home at Georgia back in Week 8 by a 43-35 final score. It was a barn burner that we got between the Bulldogs and the Rebels.
Tremendous game. Ole Miss had a 9-point lead late in that game. Georgia scored 17 unanswered. Trinidad Chambliss played 3 really solid quarters, and then it kind of fell apart on him in the fourth. And Gunnar Stockton, that was arguably his best game of the year. He was outstanding.
Absolutely. All right, let's start off with the Georgia offense. You have Gunnar Stockton in the passing game against Ole Miss's pass defense. Which we know that matchup.
All right, so when I went back and watched that game again, what stuck out to me, and this has been the case all year, that Georgia's passing game is very horizontal. It's conservative at times. They run a lot of screens. They rack up a lot of yards after catch, and it felt like they really hurt Ole Miss outside the numbers. So I think that's where I want to start with Gunnar Stockton here and his ability to get the ball to his weapons outside the numbers. It could be Zachariah Branch, who's been hot lately at wide receiver. These 2 tight ends, Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky, have been really good all year. And I think they just stress you out so much because they can run the football, but they stress you out so much with Stockton designed rollouts, go balls, deep crossers that get to the other side of the field. Been a real problem. So when you look at Gunnar Stockton throwing the ball at or outside the numbers this season, 87.5 passing grade, 22nd in the country, tops in the nation and with an 80.4% adjusted completion rate. Again, these are the perimeter throws that stress out your defense horizontally, but an 8.4 yard average depth of target. So it's really, a lot of times you'll see the highest graded passers outside the numbers. It's just because of the go balls. Right? You think about just like, okay, they're just chucking it down the sideline. That's not really Gunnar Stockton's game. We've seen it a couple of times this year, but again, the idea is that they're getting horizontal. It's play action, it's bootlegs, it's design sprint outs for Stockton to just cut the field in half and make the reads easier. And you got to challenge these Ole Miss corners, right? It's a solid group of corners, but not one of the elite ones in the country, and they really struggle in their zone coverages to see those intermediate routes that are working their way across the field or those deeper out routes. So that, for me, would be something that Ole Miss needs to emphasize, protecting the perimeter of the field, because this passing game is so horizontal and it's so designed to complement the run game, whether that's screens or deep outs or crossers, again, that get into the boundary. Those are really the problems that when this passing game was getting east and west on them in the first game, they really didn't have any answers. It was too many guys running wide open.
Yeah, I'm looking at the run game for Georgia against Ole Miss's run defense in this one. I kind of went back to the last game, too, to kind of see what happened in this game. And I'm looking at, will the Rebels be ready to defend inside zone in this one? Because back in their Week 8 matchup, Georgia ran for 226 yards against Ole Miss. Now, of course, Georgia did run 48 times in that game, so they were averaging about 4.7 yards per carry. But of those 226 rushing yards, 100 of those rushing yards came on one concept, and that was inside zone. The Bulldogs averaged 5.6 yards per carry against the Rebels on inside zone. And really, you watch back the tape, the D tackles for Ole Miss really struggled to defend inside zone. Xavier Harris and Will Eccles both had sub 50 PFF grades when Georgia ran inside zone in that game. Those two guys and Ole Miss's linebackers have to be better prepared to defend inside zone against an outstanding sophomore running back in Nate Frazier and a great Georgia offensive line at blocking that concept too. Again, that was the big issue that Ole Miss had with Georgia's run game, was defending inside zone. I'm sure that Georgia is going to do the same thing in this one and run a lot of that concept.
I think the theme really, when you talk about the run game, and I'll get into the Ole Miss side of it in a second, is that Georgia was just more physical in the trenches in that game. And that's really where Ole Miss is the weakest, right? They need their trench guys on both sides of the ball to step up and play better than they did the first time. I'll even get into the Ole Miss run game on the offensive side here, because going back and watching them, that was really the problem. Now you're going to hear about, they ran for 4 touchdowns in that game, and that is true, but total they only ran for 90 yards as well on 24 carries. And the real problem, I don't even think it was a big schematic issue. They just got beat inside. Big Kristen Miller there on the inside is a huge problem for them, trying to run between the tackles. And look, Kewan Lacey was held, I believe it was to 32 rushing yards in that game. I mean, you're just talking about their best 31 rushing yards in that game for Lacey. Their best moments of success in the run game all involved Trinidad Chambliss, whether it was read options, scrambling, him kind of working around the edge. They've got to find a way to get Lacey going in this game. They're not going to win this game if Kewan Lacey runs for 31 yards again. The problem is, I don't know that their offensive line is just going to, if they're going to make it happen between the tackles here. They've got to get to the edges. I think they've got to use even more design runs with Trinidad Chambliss. They got to get more creative. They only had 19 yards before contact in that first game, so that's the big problem. And look, Georgia, that's the entire idea. Listen, our defensive line, especially big Kristen Miller at nose tackle, we're not going to let you get between the tackles on the first level. We're going to make you bounce, and then we've got the best tackling team in the country. The linebackers are great. KJ Bolden at safety helps out a lot. Even all the defensive backs are really good tacklers in the run game. So I'm curious to see if Ole Miss can get anything going. And I think the theme is the same in the run game on both sides. Are you physical enough in the trenches? Do you have one A-plus game in the trenches that you can give against this team? Or is it all just going to be on Trinidad Chambliss to win it with his arm?
Yeah, and I'm looking at Chambliss too on this one, and what happened in the last game. And Trinidad Chambliss, even though they put up obviously 35 points against Georgia, it wasn't Chambliss's best game, honestly, out there. And it's because Georgia ran a lot of man coverage, honestly, in that one. And Georgia on the year runs man coverage about 26% of the time, which is right about average in the country, at 65th in the country. But against Ole Miss, that rocketed up to 40% man coverage rate, and that worked out really well. You can see right there, Trinidad Chambliss, a season-low 46.4 passing grade against Georgia, a season-low 53% completion rate against Georgia, and only a 43.2 passing grade when he was kept clean in that one. Usually you want to see a passing grade when kept clean somewhere in the 80s at least. It was in the 40s for Trinidad Chambliss in that game against Georgia, and that's kind of been a theme for Chambliss this year. He's been really, really good at attacking zone coverage and finding the holes in zone coverage, with the 19th best passing grade in the country against zone coverage this year at 85.8, but only a 65.7 passing grade against man coverage on the year, which is 65th in the country, right about average in the nation. So he and also Ole Miss's receivers have to do a better job of separating against Georgia's man coverage, and Chambliss has to make some tight window throws against Georgia's man coverage.
And what's crazy is, like, we talk about all of these areas where Georgia was better, and yet Ole Miss scored 35 points.
Yeah.
And part of that was, look, they got a great receiving core. They racked up 199 yards after the catch.
Yep.
That's a big problem. Open field tackling, once you get Dejon Stribling and Caden Lee and Daquan Wright and all these guys on the outside, once you get those guys in open space, open field tackling is a problem. They got a bunch of really good athletes. I think athletically on the outside, Ole Miss can absolutely play with Georgia,
yes,
and they could even win on the outside. It's a matter of if they're going to have enough balance and if they can make Georgia miss in the open field. Now, they did that. There were times they did that. And again, we're talking about this game, and Ole Miss had a late 2-score lead.
Yep.
They were up by 9 points late, and it got away from the one thing I do think that is a factor. And Chambliss did a really good job against Tulane when they took away deep shots of working underneath, and they racked up yards after catch in that game last week. He was only 2 of 11 in this first game on 10-plus yard throws. And we know all year Trinidad Chambliss has been one of the best deep passers in the country. can they find a way to create those home runs, right? Or is Georgia going to make them work for it? They're going to make them manufacture it 5 and 6 yards at a time, because that's what they do, right? And then you get Glenn Schumann and all the blitz packages. And let's be real, Georgia's defense is hotter than ever right now.
Yep.
4 straight games where they've given up 10 points or less. So I think they need to be able to get Lacey more than 31 yards for sure. Absolutely, they have to. If they don't do that, they're going to have a real problem. And then I think, and this has been a theme, I think, through all 4 of these playoff games, is it really feels like this round comes down to quarterbacks and their ability to handle pressure. And if there's any of these quarterbacks, especially ones that are going to pull off the upsets, right, especially the bigger ones when you talk about Trinidad Chambliss, Ty Simpson for Alabama, Carson Beck for Miami, is there one of them that's going to play like a perfect ball game?
Yeah.
Like just a legendary, just outstanding performance. And Chambliss was great last week. He's been really good for obviously the vast majority of this year. But can Chambliss play one more just legendary ball game for this team? We'll see. If he can hit some of those vertical throws, couldn't do it in the first game. If he can hit some more of them in this game, Ole Miss obviously has a shot on offense, but they are going to need a little more balance too.
That's a great point by you, because I know that all 4 of those previews that we just did for this game were like favoring Georgia. It felt like pretty heavily, but hey, Ole Miss only lost by a possession in that Georgia game at Georgia too, so they definitely have a shot at winning this ball game. I think creating yards after the catch, I think, will be huge for Ole Miss once again in this one too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for as much as they can distribute the football, because here's the thing. It's great to get in man-to-man coverage if you can lock everybody down. But Ole Miss, they got a lot of options now. Right? I mean, they got Harrison Wallace, Dejon Stribling, Caden Lee, Daquan Wright, Winston Watkins. Let me know if there's anybody else I'm missing, because there's a million guys. I think 12 guys got a target in the game against Tulane. Deuce Alexander. There we go. I mean, they've just got so many of them. How many? I think for the same theme that we have for Georgia, working horizontally, if you're going to get all that man coverage, how many of those guys can you free up horizontally on crossers and deep overs and things like that to just outrun them in open space, right? And then there's going to be moments, especially against the blitz, because Glenn Schumann's been bringing it more and more lately. How many of those plays from outside the pocket are we going to get from Chambliss, too? Those are going to be the plays that might make the difference in this game. And Stockton himself, too. Gunnar Stockton made a lot of plays outside the pocket in that first game as well. It's going to be fun, but I do think the pressure is on Chambliss to finish the game better than he did last time. And if he can play at the potential, the capability we know he can play on the high end, then absolutely they have a shot to score a lot of points again.
So ultimately, Dalton, in what is the only rematch that we've had in the college football playoff quarterfinal round, will Georgia beat Ole Miss once again, or will Pete Golding start his career as a head coach off 2-0 in the college football playoff?
And don't forget to add on to that, do the one thing that Lane Kiffin did not do.
That's very true.
Because if there was ever a show-off kind of moment that would happen, it's Pete Golding turning around and finding a way to beat the Georgia Bulldogs. I do think it's going to be a really good football game. The first one was a terrific football game. I wonder if this is the moment for me with Ole Miss where I think of all of these teams in the trenches, they're probably the weakest one. And I think that comes to a head in this game. I just think Georgia's physicality, their ability to tackle, their defense is playing better than ever. And I think they're still the more likely of the two that's going to find a lot of success running the football. Really good game. I do think Chambliss plays well, but we're going to get Georgia. I've got them 34-27.
I have Georgia also scoring 34. I have Ole Miss scoring 24 in this game. I don't think it'll be as high scoring as their first matchup back in Week 8, but I think the final result will remain the same, with Georgia coming out on top thanks to a balanced offense, and we'll see what Ole Miss's offense can do against Georgia's really, really strong elite defense so far. I think Georgia will move on to the semifinals to take on either Ohio State or Miami.
Everyone's got takes. Numbers have truth. And the truth is, most people are betting with emotion. Sportsbooks feed on it. TikTok gurus sell it. The hype machine runs on it. That's how you lose. PFF is different. You're betting with winning data. The same data trusted by all 32 NFL teams and the sharpest minds in the game. PFF betting tools take every prop, every matchup, every angle, and run them through our custom models. Built on the best football data in the world. What comes back is your edge. Simple, sharp, and built to win. Want to go deeper? PFF puts a pro-level analytics department in your hands, giving you the same insights teams use to find every advantage. Build your game plan with matchup analysis. Project every snap, every matchup, and every edge before kickoff. Because the smartest plays start long before Sunday. Hit rates show how a player performs against their prop and against defenses built the same way. It's the data that gives you real confidence in every pick. Next, Key Insights translates PFF data into the story behind every matchup, giving you the why that powers your bets. From coverage schemes to defensive looks, it's the context that turns raw numbers into winning decisions. When you're ready to take action, filter through every prop on the market and focus on the opportunities that matter, by game, matchup, or value. Then, shop for the best available line in your area and tap your book of choice to place the bet instantly. Everyone's got takes, but now you've got truth. Bet with data, win with PFF.